You got it? Yeah, cool.
Calibre, why do I do that?
Hi guys, welcome back to What's on Watches.
Today we're at Owen & Robinson Jewellers in Leeds and we're getting hands-on with our favourite German giant, a Lange Söhne. So when people discuss fine watchmaking, a lot of the time they'll refer to the Holy Trinity. That consists of Vacheron, Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet.
I do feel like when it comes to haute horology, there is one brand that is left out.
Maybe it's because they're not Swiss, it's because they're German. Yet, a Lange Söhne makes some of the most beautifully hand-finished watches on the planet. So when thinking about modern watchmaking, you wouldn't be mistaken for thinking that everything we know about it could be credited to the Swiss.
Technically, the inventor of the mainspring was actually German, the mainspring being the heartbeat that powers all modern watches we wear today. His name was Peter Henlein.
And in fact, watchmaking in Germany has been taking place since the 15th century. So back in 2017, I actually had the pleasure of visiting the Lange Söhne manufactory in Germany.
Very jealous of that.
Yeah, I have to admit, it was a truly amazing trip. But on this trip, what I discovered is that the history of a Lange Söhne is a little bit of a complicated one.
Yeah, so Lange Söhne was actually established in 1845 by Adolf A. Lange in Glashütte. Although 1945 came along and the Soviets occupied Germany. And with that, Lange Söhne was actually nationalised, and 2 years later, in 1948, it ceased to exist altogether.
That was until December 1990. Walter Lange, the grandson of the original founder, actually re-established the family business at Lange Söhne in Glashütte, Germany. Right then, Josh, I'll let you start. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, today I want to talk about the Lange Söhne, the annual calendar in 18 karat rose gold. So, the annual calendar coming in at 38.5mm at a price of £48,600. Might sound a lot if you're new to the watch game, but it's actually very competitively priced compared to an annual calendar from, say, Patek Philippe. The annual calendar is actually powered by the calibre L085.1, so that's an automatic movement with a 46-hour power reserve beating at 21,600 vibrations per hour.
What I find really interesting with this watch as well is the way that you set it. The movement is adjusted in a chronometer style by the 5 different points around the case. What is an annual calendar? Well, if you take a look at the dial here, what this watch tells you is it tells you the date, it tells you the day, it tells you the month. But most importantly, it only has to be set once a year.
How does it feel on the wrist?
The first question I've got to ask you is, does it feel like 50 grand?
Every pound of it. It is such a lovely watch. I just love all the small details, from the alpha hands to that nice big date window, which is actually inspired by a stage clock at an opera house in Dresden.
Another thing that I absolutely love about a Lange Söhne, and particularly on this annual calendar, is that a lot of the components, including the dial, is actually made from galvanised German silver.
The precious metals don't just stop there, so the moon on the moon phase on this one is made from solid gold as well. And I love the fact that the hour markers are nice subtle batons. What that means is it doesn't take away from the complications on the dial.
So I'm not taking away from your choice, Josh, but what I want to talk about is a watch that Lange, probably what they're most famous for, the Lange 1. So the Lange 1 was actually first introduced in 1994.
Oh, wow. So it actually took 4 years to make, and it was sort of a home run really, because the Lange 1 has become the epitome of what Lange Söhne is.
So this particular example we've got here today is actually the Grand Lange 1. And what that means is it clocks in at a slightly larger case size. So this particular example is 41mm. This one has a solid 18 karat white gold case and once again a dial made of solid silver. The solid silver dial is then finished with white gold markers. All of the things combined with the Lange Söhne are fantastic, but you know, impressive price tags, beautiful dials, just how beautiful they wear on the wrist. One of the most important things is when you take that watch off and you look through the open case back at that movement.
Yeah, there's lots of really expensive watches out there at the moment. For example, there's certain ceramic and steel models, I won't mention any names, Rolex, but they don't come anywhere near to the movement finish and you get something like this.
So, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Don't be insulted.
Okay.
But can you name all the different types of finishes that are in this movement?
No, I cannot. So I've actually got the laptop here with just a few, not all, just a few mine. Chamfering, black polishing, circular graining, engraving, mirror polish, linear finishes, blue screws and pelage.
All of these combined take Lange to that next level. This is no longer just fine watchmaking. In my opinion, this is fine art. Just like the annual calendar, it wears like a £38,000 watch. I absolutely love the layout of the complications on the dial. It's asymmetrical and forms this isosceles triangle. What I also really love as well about the Grand Lange one is the fact that it is 41mm, and I believe it wears a little bit better than the normal Lange one, which clocks in at 38.5mm.
Being that bit of a bigger size as well, it really easily fits all the complications in there. So look how snug that panorama datum fits in the top right corner. That's the big date windows if you're not German.
So then, 50,000, 30,000, it's a lot of money to be spending on a watch. Yet, at that price point, there are so many brands that are knocking on the door. But when spending that kind of money on a watch, surely you want exclusivity. Some brands at that price point are producing some over 1 million watches a year. Some of the higher watchmaking houses like Vacheron Patek, 100,000. Yet, a Lange Söhne produce under 10,000 watches a year to this beautiful level of finishing. So the question I have to ask you is, are you buying a Lange Söhne?
I'm going to have to go German in this case. If I was in those very fortunate shoes of one, having the money, and two, being in the position to buy a Lange Söhne, I'd have to do it. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever, these are some of the best watches in the world. If you've liked any of the watches you've seen in this video today, make sure you come and check out Owen and Robinson in Leeds.
And if you're looking for your first Rolex, or you want help finding a watch in a similar vein, head on over to whatsonwatches.co.uk and let us help you find your grail.
Make sure you like and subscribe the video to help us keep bringing you the great watch content we already do, and we'll see you soon.